Hey guys, what's going on? Mike and Ez back with another video. How is it going today, Mike?
It's going great because today is Fat Tuesday.
Come on.
So all you folks out in the internets, let us know what you're doing to celebrate your Fat Tuesday. We are not giving up Star Wars
Not
for
at all.
Lent.
Not at all.
Clearly, we're not doing that as we enjoy a little bit of wine in a Yoda glass and a little bit of Superman reference there for Ez. But enjoying it so far. Ready to talk about Luke Skywalker. Let's go.
All right.
That was didn't mean to
Jinx me?
Yeah,
It's okay.
You owe me a Coke.
All right, I will later. It's in the fridge. Help yourself.
All right.
How powerful is Luke Skywalker? We're pumped about this.
I want to know.
I do want to know. I think I know. And I think I learned a lot in 4, 5, and 6. Things have been hinted at in episode 7 and in Aftermath. So we're going to try to answer that question and just sort of speculate and think about it. I think my approach to answering this question, I've got a couple questions here that they're going to help guide us to our answer for how powerful is Luke Skywalker. But
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go to an extreme on this.
Let's go.
Just to jump right
Start
out
off
the
on a big note.
Big note. I think Luke Skywalker is one of the most powerful Jedi ever.
Wow.
Ever.
That's a big Fat Tuesday statement.
It is. It is. I really do.
Why? Ez?
Well, it's. I think Rey has the potential to be also just as powerful. It's this idea that like,
True.
it's a little different between what happened with Rey and Luke. Luke just, like it's like fate or like the Force, sort of like it was his destiny to, to learn about the Force and to come across Obi-Wan. I don't know. I think we've learned more about the Force since then too. I think the Force has more of its own will moving around Rey. But I think so. Luke, he had Obi-Wan to teach him.
He did.
And he had
Kind of.
kind of. And then he had Master Yoda. So he had two masters.
He did.
And they're two of the most powerful. I mean, Yoda for sure. And I think Obi-Wan. I love Obi-Wan. I think he was
The most powerful Jedi of all time.
I mean, trained Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker. So
Yeah.
So I think you have the masters there who have played a big role in it. I just think he's going to be extremely powerful. And a lot of people are going to jump out and say, well, he can't be too powerful because, I mean, it's...
He wasn't properly trained. He's not even a real
or-
Jedi. Did anyone else see him force jump in episode 5?
Yeah, I did see that.
So, I mean,
Epic.
he learned that really quick. So we don't even know.
He's a fast learner, which he says.
He did.
You know?
He did, as did Anakin.
Oh, he did.
Or
That's
was
true.
that Anakin? Like father, like son.
Like
I don't
father,
know.
yeah,
They're
they
both
did.
quick learners.
They did. So what do you think, Mike? Do you think he's going to be do you think that Luke Skywalker is going to be extremely powerful? We're going to see, because we haven't seen anything since episode 6 when he defeats Vader.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, it was father versus son. Perhaps Vader wasn't
He
trying
wasn't
as hard.
taking it easy on him. He was swinging that lightsaber like he meant it.
Yeah, I think Vader had to. I do think there was a little hesitation though in Vader, but I still think Luke was super brave. I mean, he just had such faith and belief in the Force and just his own sort of code. He knew that he was not going to turn to the dark side. He was trying to show his father that in episode 6.
That's true.
I don't know. I mean, what do you think? You think he's going to be mediocre? Do you have any?
I think he's
idea?
gonna. I think he's gonna be very, very strong with the Force. I think he's also seeking other means to either understand this new kind of Sith presence, or he's seeking more power,
Or knowledge.
Yeah, and maybe he's kind of finding that middle ground too. Some people speculate that he has kind of studied the dark side already with his temptations and fighting his father and things like that. But
been influenced by it, or he's not dabbled in it, but in a sense has been influenced and has felt its draw, its power, and he's resisted it and things.
I do think he's going to be powerful though. But I think we might not even see the full kind of extent of his power because of all that he's gone through with Ben and everything.
Yeah, I think so. One of the things that we wanted to talk about is, are we going to see any new abilities in episode 8? I think one of the coolest things that we saw Ben Solo or Kylo Ren do was to stop that blaster bolt.
That was sick.
I was like, we can do that. That's awesome.
And I mean,
And that was super cool, right? I mean,
Vader deflected one. when Han shot him. But you didn't see him stop. Maybe that was just the limitations of the technology, and they didn't kind of touch on that. But yeah, it's for not being trained very well. He sure can do some cool stuff like that.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm wondering. Are there things that maybe Luke has he learned any new abilities? Just in this next, are we going to see things that we haven't seen before?
I think he's going to be careful though. Like kind of touching on what we just talked about and how powerful will he be. I think he's kind of seen the failure of Ben, so he might not even teach Rey that much. He might keep her limited. Just say this is what you need to know for now.
Right.
I think it's gonna be very reminiscent of Episode 5.
Yeah. When Yoda is just like, because Luke asks, is the dark side stronger? And Yoda's like, no.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think that maybe he's found that out for himself, and so he's realized. I mean, it turned his nephew. Maybe he struggled with it himself. He sees that it turned his father. So we'll see. Next question: do you think we're going to see any lightsaber skills from Luke Skywalker? Does he still have his green lightsaber?
Gosh, it depends if he's been in. I've seen some people speculate that he's been in confrontations to where he did so many crazy things with the saber and things that he's not even going to wield one anymore, or that he's so powerful with the Force in other realms that he doesn't even need it.
Didn't even need it, yeah.
Or maybe he just threw it in that ocean on Ahch-To and said, "Never again." I mean, because he cut his father's hand off, and if you remember when he cuts his father's hand off, he throws his lightsaber and tells the Emperor, "I'll never join you."
Right, he does toss it to the side. Doesn't look like it went down anywhere, but he does toss it to the side.
So does he grab it?
I think he does, but I'm not so sure if I'm almost positive that he does. I think if you look at his belt later, I think you can see him with the lightsaber on. I have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure. But I really just kind of wonder, even if he has the lightsaber that he's constructed, is he even going to use it? Is he so powerful to the point where he's sort of like Yoda and he can almost just, he can handle some of these lighter enemies, maybe the Knights of Ren. He could handle those guys without a lightsaber, perhaps, I think.
Will he want to? I mean...
Yeah.
He might not even want to have this fight.
We're going to get into his emotional state and all that good stuff here in just a second. We've got 4 big talking points, so stay with us. But yeah, just let us know what you think about that. Is he going to have his lightsaber? Is he going to use it? I think it would be epic if he did have a little confrontation with Kylo Ren.
It would blow it away.
Even if he's training Rey and he pulls out his lightsaber. I think it would be cooler to see him pull out his lightsaber for the first time versus Kylo Ren.
Yes.
Really I don't think Snoke is going to be wielding a lightsaber, and we're going to have some battle with Luke Skywalker and Snoke. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Not with the...
It's going to be a force powers battle.
Yeah, not with the leaks and rumors about Snoke being a big puppet, like a 7-foot tall puppet. I really don't think that's going to...
Right.
That probably won't be a thing. If it is, cool, that's great. I'm sure they can do it, but it doesn't seem...
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to do. So I think it would be cooler to see their abilities and their knowledge in the Force and see what they've learned.
It'd be like a Yoda Episode 2 reveal.
The first part
Hopefully
1.
Not as crazy.
Yeah. Question number 2. In Episode 5, we got several questions here, but is Luke still having visions? We know in Episode 5 that he had his first premonitions and visions of the future / present when Han and Leia are in trouble, and we've speculated in other videos that Luke. Some Jedi are more that comes more natural to them. They have more visions. They're more in connection with the living Force, and they can see things either past or present, sort of like Rey did in Episode 7. That definitely happens to Luke. And do we think that's going to happen again, or do we think we're going to learn about some of his visions? What do you think, Mike?
I hope so. I hope we see flashbacks of him having reactions through the Force to maybe even Han passing away, or just... when the First Order destroys the New Republic with the Starkiller based weapon,
right? Yeah,
I kind of want to see him reacting to this, even if he's just on Ahch-To in some hut. I want to see him kind of having flashbacks, reacting, but even having visions of these things happening, and maybe even his own kind of
foresight.
Visions.
Yeah, exactly. And knowing he needed to either protect. Because I just have this sense or this feeling that the dark side clouds everything, and so if Snoke and Kylo Ren and those guys were behind the attack on his temple, I don't think he was there, but I think he might have had some knew in some regard that he had to get Rey or someone else to safety, and so I think he would have foresaw something. I don't know. I think he foresaw that he needed to keep her safe, but I'm not so sure that he foresaw the attack on his order. He would have done something about it.
Especially if Snoke has the kind of same powers that Palpatine did, then he's fully capable of,
that manipulation,
keeping everyone in the dark. Yeah,
absolutely,
exactly.
Another question here for us. We're talking about Luke's powers and just what we might see in Episode 8. Does he speak with Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda? Has he been doing this for the past 30 years? We hear Yoda. We hear Obi-Wan. We even hear at one point Palpatine in the vision. But so has he been communicating with those guys through the Force?
That would be awesome. And it's
still learning, maybe.
Still learning it. And it's if they're going to show kind of actual human embodiments of people in the Force, like Obi-Wan, like Yoda, like Anakin, how are they going to show them? Because in Episode 6, and then the redone Blu-ray versions of Episode 6, we have Hayden Christensen.
Right, that's true.
And then we have Sir Alec Guinness as well.
Right.
And then a puppet Yoda. It wouldn't be terrible. You still understand who he's talking to and stuff, but you kind of want that continuation. If they're gonna do that.
I think it would be kind of cool instead of showing their it's almost like I don't know if this is just sort of my thought process behind it. You're a Force ghost. You're almost like that Force ghost presence is able to come back the sooner. Like after death, you died here, and then time goes on. Like the longer that time goes on, you maybe come back as a voice or an echo or something. And you're maybe not as much a
or maybe there's some reason where they can't interfere as much because Obi-Wan tells Luke,
"True,
I can't help you. I can only do so much."
Right.
So maybe there's something keeping them from being able to kind of fully
limitations to some degree. Yeah, I think they could still do in Episode 8 though, just having them talk, or having their voices come back. Whether it's Yoda's or finding somebody for that voice, or even Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor, perhaps.
And I would presume also that the Emperor may also be kind of attuned to.
Oh yeah, sure. Being able to communicate back from beyond the
Maybe he's
the grave,
still behind the works, manipulating things like the Wizard of Oz,
or trying to influence Rey or what have you. Yeah, possibly. Another thing we want to talk about is the connection to the Force tree. So this is kind of new for us, but we just got done talking about like Sith artifacts being on these observatories and different things, and light side and dark side artifacts, and then now we have a Force tree that we're speculating about in Episode 8. Yeah. What is Luke's connection to that? Does he learn through that as like a portal that he can maybe connect to? It's sort of like the holocron, but maybe it's something that helps him hone his abilities. We know that in Shattered Empire.
Shattered Empire.
Yeah, you can tell us about that, right?
The graphic novel that shows kind of Luke providing Poe's parents a Force tree, and Luke takes one himself, and Poe then grows up around it, and we presume kind of maybe garnered some Force ability, some kind of strength with the Force, maybe unknowingly.
Poe? Yeah. Oh yeah, I think Poe is definitely Force sensitive. I'm not sure he'd be a Jedi, but look at his work in Episode 7. He's like the best pilot.
Exactly. So. Yeah. So I think with the leaks also that we've seen of the Last Jedi, I'm 99% sure that is a Force tree. On Ahch-To. That is either gone, dead, whatever. It's old. So we need to come to accept that these Force trees are a thing,
right?
And it seems it's going to be a huge deal. It's just, how is it going to be a huge deal? To what extent are they going to be influencing kind of the Force, and did they create Rey? Who knows?
It's sort of like in Episode 5 where you have the cave scene where Yoda, it's a place of evil, he calls it, the dark side strong there. That was the cave. Maybe these trees are more of it's full of the the light side of the Force, or it harnesses some special abilities there where you can sort of have visions. Maybe that's something maybe it's part of the trials that you have to go through, because the cave was kind of Luke's own trial in a sense, and then ultimately facing Vader. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see if he's learned, going back to, has he learned any new abilities? Has he been able to learn more about really the Jedi Order, I guess? What has he learned about the Jedi Order going back to the first Jedi Temple? Yeah. What are the flaws? What are some of our shortcomings? Because in Legends, it's very clear that Luke sort of distanced himself. He almost goes back to Anakin's phrase where he seeks... he's okay with attachment. He's okay with that relationship and loving one another and things like that, and having a spouse and things like that. That makes you. It's part of what makes us good, that we need that, because the Sith don't have that. That's sort of they detach in a sense.
Speaking of the Force trees, life debt refers to the Force and a tree. It doesn't necessarily, I don't think, say that's a Force tree, but Luke, Leia's talking about, Luke kind of giving her pointers on how she'll be able to kind of tap into the Force or whatever, and the way to do that, I think he either tells her or they actually describe her doing this, but she touches this tree to kind of come into contact with the Force, and I don't think it really works, but it's kind of interesting that they were making a reference to using a tree
right,
to kind of make that connection.
Because Luke still has a tree. We know for sure that he gave one to Poe's family, but he still had one himself.
So I don't know if they're referring to a specific like Force tree, or if it's just like
the Force is in everything, in all living things.
Yeah, and this one just happens to be, you can tap into that through this object. I don't know. It
does make sense that it does sort of make me think that maybe it was the Force tree, and he was trying to get her to connect with it in a different way or learn something from it. And then you said she ends up being able to sense.
She senses Kylo and not just like Ben.
Yeah,
he's
Later.
not Kylo yet.
Yeah.
But she senses Ben, and it was so cool to think that like, you may think, oh, well, she sensed him, obviously, like she's pregnant. She probably feels him kicking and stuff.
Right,
but no, she sensed his personality. She sensed the initial good in him. She sensed just his, I don't know, just him as an individual and his thoughts and things like that. So that was a really cool concept. She did tap into it, but I think Leia's kind of caught up in the government and the politics behind a lot of things to where she is really not enabling herself to tap into it.
Yeah, true. And we have a quote from, was this from Life Debt? I'm not really sure.
I can't remember.
We might have got this from makingstarwars.net, but it says, I think it's from Life Debt.
Oh yeah, it's definitely one of, I can't remember which aftermath it is, but
it's an aftermath, and it's right after where that experience that Mike just talked about. So Luke said to her, Leia, we all have that. He explained the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. And
that's crazy. So
there's a little bit of foreshadowing in that, and just sort of talking about the experience that she had sensing Ben, which was interesting. We're going to talk about how the Skywalker family in just a second, but one more thing we want to jump into before we get to the Skywalker family as a whole and their legacy, the emotional and mental status of Luke in Episode 8. What is it like? What's he dealing with? I mean, his academy has either been destroyed or they've been turned to the dark side. And then now, I mean, he's noticed. I mean, Han is dead. He probably sensed that through the Force. Yep. And then you've got the New Republic has been destroyed, and the Resistance there's just remnants of that are left. So what do you think? What's his state? Where's he at mentally?
He's just from seeing him at the end of Episode 7, he seems distraught. Mm-hmm. But then you just catch a glimpse of just like determination almost.
Yeah.
Almost like a sense of like, I don't know. Initially I kind of think,
okay, we have to do that. I get it's now I see it.
Yeah.
Now it's come full circle.
And maybe he's kind of falling back on a Force vision he had, but he definitely seems distraught. That's very clear, I think, with his reaction. But also, I think he's going to be determined to.
Well, Mark Hamill is just a wonderful man.
Great actor.
I love him so much. And then just with no words at all, he communicated so many things in that facial expression. Yeah. Like you said, there's this, the one thing that it's almost like it's like he knows he has to do something, like he's resisting. Mm-hmm. He's reluctant to do it, but at the same time, he's almost like, there it is.
And it wasn't like Rey didn't say, hey, like it's, hi, I'm Rey, this. She pulls the lightsaber out and just hands it to him.
Right.
So it's almost like he kind of needs this maybe push to say, it's time to get you back in the fight.
Right.
I don't have a lot at stake in this galaxy. Rey doesn't, but she's joined this fight because she believes in it.
Right.
And we see that with Finn, where he would talk around. She's like, no, this is, we have to do this.
Right.
That's why I think it's so telling, where she's not just like, hi, I'm Rey, you're Luke.
Right.
No, she says, here, and obviously she looks
tearing
terrified.
up, and she looks though just emotional
and kind of just like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but this,
right?
I know this belongs to you. It's called to me.
Right.
It was very forthcoming and just determined. I think she's gonna be that little push that he needs to maybe.
Well, and he needs a push, and we were speculating. We were talking about before we shot this video. Is it that Luke he's failed? Mm-hmm. Has he were his his younglings or his Padawans or apprentices or the Jedi Academy, were they killed and destroyed? Yeah. We saw somewhere a video, and I have to figure out who this was, who he kind of thought that maybe they had all been turned. Not all, but maybe most or some of them had been turned, and maybe they're some of the Knights of Ren. But he's lost that. And then at the same time, the other thing we kind of speculated and thought about, Leia and Han seem to know about Snoke, and it doesn't seem to surprise them that Snoke is the one who turned Ben Solo to the dark side.
No.
That was obviously under Luke's guidance. Was Snoke involved in the Academy somehow? Was it Luke? Here's the other thing. Right before was it Luke that discovered Snoke?
Yeah.
Did Luke actually come across him or unearth him or something? And then that is what maybe he was studying Snoke or studying from Snoke.
Was it too late when he found out? Was it? I mean, what did he realize that something was going to happen, but he didn't ever think that Kylo would be the one to turn on him? I mean,
yeah. And the dark side, the whole idea is they deceive people, and so there's just so many things that I just have been thinking about with like Luke either learning from Snoke, met Snoke, found Snoke, because we've always thought about it in the sense that Palpatine with his contingency plan was searching Snoke, but now I'm starting to think we just said in Aftermath that Luke has been out searching since the Return of the Jedi. When he left, he goes out, he has to find more knowledge, he has to understand the Force better, he has to seek its origins.
Yeah, Leia, I don't think Leia really says in Aftermath. She mentions he's out doing this for a little while, but it doesn't really say why.
Why or even how long. I mean,
so he might not be telling people that he senses this presence.
True. Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to whatever.
Right.
I don't know, cause a disturbance or whatever, but it sounds like he knows something's up.
Right.
For sure.
Right. So, I don't know, something to think about. Chew on that for a second and let us know what you think about maybe Luke finding Snoke or Luke being deceived by Snoke, maybe at one time being close and being deceived by him. All of those things.
Kind of going back to what's he going to be? I think he's going to be very Obi-Wan-esque. In episode like he was in episode like Obi-Wan was in episode 4. Yeah. Obi-Wan was a little hesitant at first, I once was a Jedi, this and that, and then kind of sees a little bit of hope in Luke and that there might obviously a new hope.
Yes.
But I think it's going to be pretty similar to that kind of relationship in the beginning at least.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And so that kind of we've already talked about this a little bit, but just like his overall role in episode 8, we think is going to be a mentor, right? Yeah. He's going to be a mentor. But I do think, unlike where Yoda sort of just was a mentor, I think Luke is going to have a confrontation, right? Do you think that?
Yeah, because I mean, if Snoke finishes Kylo's training, I'm assuming Snoke's going to get his hand in things as well. So I mean, it can't just be Rey, taking this fight, alone. So
right. Well, and that's another question that I have here for us is that like you look back at episode 4, 5, and 6, and you have A New Hope, and you've got Obi-Wan, and you've got Luke Skywalker, and that's pretty much it as far as we knew. And then now we have in this, post Battle of Endor, we have Luke starting a new academy, but apparently it's been destroyed, and you've got Snoke, Kylo Ren, you've got Rey, and you've got Luke. You're really limited in your real Force users. I think you still have other Force-sensitive people like Poe and maybe Finn. But are we back to where it's this one person can make a huge difference in an entire galaxy? Luke could make that big difference. Is it Rey now doing that? Or are we going to see this flux or this inflation of more, Jedi or Sith or what have you? I don't really... Because the title of the movie is The Last Jedi. And so... Luke dies out, and then, or is it just all about Luke being the Last Jedi? I love this title.
It's great, and I think it was recently confirmed that Jedi takes a plural meaning to where it's several Jedi or more than one Jedi at least. So it's either Luke's the Last Jedi or they're the Last Jedi, and they're gonna reform this order. It doesn't really feel like that's the way. I don't know. It's hard for me to be a fan of Star Wars, seemingly in the future, be a fan of Star Wars and not have Jedi and not have Sith. Yeah. It's very hard to kind of just get rid of that. I feel like that's kind of something that they need to continue with, but I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's they've introduced us to new things like the Acolytes of the Beyond and the Force of the Church of the Force, and those sort of cult/religious groups that worship one side or the other of the Force. So those are new to us, and we're accepting those. I don't think those are going to take the place of the Jedi and the Sith, but we could have something new emerge. We've recently canonized the gray side of the Force, apparently.
Yeah.
And it actually makes a lot of sense. I was going to read something here. We were talking about earlier the Skywalker family and how like Luke was helping Leia sense Ben Solo inside of her, and how this bright light can also be cast the darkest shadow in a sense.
Yeah.
And that the Skywalkers have always been torn between the light and the dark side. And that they tend to be, if you look at the word like Skywalker, you look at that word, and they're walking in the sky almost between, like almost this twilight sort of feel that you get with them, almost this the breach or the difference between the light and the dark side. It's just they're almost walking in a different boundary in a sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it makes sense that they do kind of, they're more of a centered in the middle family, force sensitive family. So I think we might see some of that in Rey if she is Luke's daughter, and I think we'll see some of that with Luke. I mean, first of all, he's wearing a gray cloak at the end of episode. So just kidding. That's just the gray side of the Force is with him. But so, anyways, the Star Wars or the Skywalker legacy, Mike. Does it continue? Is it like who? You have Luke Skywalker. That name has been with us from episode 1 all the way up until like when Luke going to die in episode 8 and 9, and then who's going to carry on the Skywalker name? I understand that you've got Princess Leia or General Organa or whatever you want to call her. She's a Solo now, and she's not really. She's what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
I still think it could continue on through.
They could.
What were you going to say?
So,
Ben Solo?
You could look at it as Ben Solo kind of continuing on, if he is the only Skywalker lineage after Leia and Luke, you could say part of the actual Skywalker blood family. You could say that if he turns light or even dark, he's continuing on with the Skywalker legacy and story.
Right.
But you can also, even if he doesn't, and even if Rey isn't a Skywalker, which I really hope she is, I kind of think that would be cool, and I get why some people don't want that to be the case, that it's too obvious or whatever, but even if she's not Luke Skywalker's daughter, she could still carry on the Skywalker legacy, just really emanating Luke's story.
Oh, I gotcha.
Continuing,
being
not
his
necessarily
disciple or
being
his apprentice.
Exactly. Not necessarily carrying Skywalker blood, but that same battle with that they both want to do well by the galaxy, but they also want to love. They also want to enjoy everything that everyone else gets to, and not necessarily adopt the Jedi way of life. But I mean, they haven't. Neither Anakin nor Luke have ever really adopted the Jedi way of life.
The code,
to a T. So,
right.
I mean, and they obviously don't want to fall into the side of the Sith and the dark side. So it's kind of that same. It's the same legacy without maybe being blood. Yeah,
and almost like just a real quick touch on the Sith and the Jedi. Well, since you mentioned that, is that the Sith have kind of fallen away from their rule of two.
Exactly.
And the Jedi. Luke has what was he teaching to his apprentice? Had he created a new set of rules and laws and guidelines and things to instruct these young apprentices on? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I think things have changed. We haven't learned much about that. We don't really know what that's going to be like. So hopefully we see that Kylo's getting trained, and so is Rey. So it's a big training episodes 8. I think we're going to see a lot about the two different sides of the Force, the two different new factions, or maybe even new orders, or whatever it may be. But I think you're right. I would love to see the Sith and the Jedi continue.
Yeah, that's Star Wars to me, and I know a lot of people feel the same way. But I mean, it can get. I'm sure Disney can make it its own and change it up and do something else, and everyone will still love it. And maybe the Jedi and the Sith will make a comeback at some point when everyone figures out that this new philosophy isn't the way to go either.
Right.
So you never know.
True.
A whole new trilogy.
Yeah. Hopefully there is more than 9. But all right, guys. That is it for this video. Let us know what you think. How powerful do you think Luke Skywalker is going to be? Does he have any new abilities? What's his mental state? And then what is the Skywalker legacy? How is that going to carry on or not carry on?
Hopefully he's not like crazy like Yoda.
Yeah, hopefully Luke's not. He's just all...
Yeah, I don't think so.
Delusional.
You never know.
That would actually be kind of funny. So, all right, guys, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe and stay tuned for more content.